How's it going, guys? It's your boy Kanji FPL and welcome back to the channel. Last week was game week 25 and it was a wild one. I gotta be honest with you, chips were flying everywhere. A lot of people had used their triple captain chip, but I didn't. I was one of the few that didn't. In fact, I was one of the few people that didn't use a chip and I got a 100k green arrow. Somehow, some way, that should be an FPL accomplishment within itself. But game week 25 was crazy. We had Luis Diaz outscoring Diego Jota and Darwin Núñez. Who would have thought you can actually outscore the template? In fact, Mo Salah with 10% effective ownership outscored both Darwin and Jota as well. I couldn't even believe it. Where does Salah even come from? So there's a lot to discuss. Let's jump right into my Game Week 25 analysis. Alright, so my Game Week 25 transfer was Trent Alexander-Arnold, who is my favorite player in the league, and unfortunately I sold him to Virgil van Dijk. Come as you like, it's Virgil van Dijk, and he came through with a 10-pointer. Yes, he did indeed. I'm so glad. And listen, he picked up the goal in the second game. He could have had another goal, which actually hit the crossbar. He had another chance that was actually saved by the keeper. So he got into a lot of good positions, and I'm really glad that I made that move. And I can finally say that my defender that I picked has outscored an Arsenal defender. Man, that feels amazing. And the reason I'm saying that is because I look at Purvis Estupiñán and week in and week out, this guy, he just doesn't do it. Like recently, he's just been getting benched. I think he's like on the naughty step for Roberto De Zerbi, and he's just been consistently benching him. I don't know if there's like something that's happened within training, or maybe Estupiñán is looking to get sold maybe in the summer. Something looks like there's something going on there. And if I find that he's benched again, or we get the news that he's potentially going to be benched before the deadline, I will likely have to sell him and move him to an Arsenal defender. If you can't beat him, join him, right? So that's where my mind is right now, and hopefully I can take that pain away and just stop the bleeding, really, from Arsenal defense. Moving on, we've got my Luton defenders, and I'm so glad that I have both of them in my team. We've got Thomas Kaminski in net, and he put up a lot of saves in the double game week, around 15 saves in the double. He had 6 saves in the first game with a bonus point, and in the second game he put up 9 saves, even though he conceded 4 goals. So he ends up with a 7-pointer, which I will take. I'm really happy with that, especially given the fact that Doughty picked up some amazing positions. He was crossing the ball a lot, but he just missed having Adebayo in the box to header those chances in. Woodrow, that subbed in for Adebayo, is just not the same type of player. Low key, he's been really clutch for Luton and scoring lots of goals, and without him, I don't even think they have a chance to stay up. But listen, the tactics that Luton are using, the coach, I really like the vibe that's going around with Luton. I know that they didn't win either of the games in the double game week, but they put up a fight, especially in the Man United game. Doughty picked up this amazing position coming off of that left wing. He's really not a left back. He's really a left winger for Luton. He's pretty much in every single attack that they have. He's on all the set pieces. And again, there was one moment against Man United where he comes in off the left wing, he cuts into the box, he shoots, and he puts it just past the left post. If that had gone in, it would have been huge. He would have been on for probably a solid 8 or 9 pointer in that game, picking up all the bonus points. Because whenever he gets a return, he always gets the bonus because he's so important for Luton and he's so involved. So I'm really glad that I have him. And again, when you take a step back and you look at the fixtures, it was Man United and Liverpool. Were you really expecting returns from the defenders? Not really. I was hoping to pick up, 4 points and 4 points. So to get 8 points from both Doughty and Kaminski, they did their job. I actually took a -4 to bring them in, and I can honestly see that it's paid off. Kaminski has outscored my goalie that I would have played by 4 points already, and now he has a double game week that's going to be coming up in game week 28 against Crystal Palace and Bournemouth. So I can't wait to see what's going to happen, and I'm really glad to have these two guys in my team. Moving on to my midfielders, we've got Luis Diaz and Diego Jota. I had high expectations for both of them. I was expecting 10 points, but unfortunately, Diego Jota picked up an injury really early on into the double game week, and he didn't even play in the second game. In fact, it does seem like he's going to be out for 2 months. And it's just really sad. It's really unfortunate because he was the Premier League Player of the Month this month. So everyone pretty much had him in their FPL team. He was super hot, very in form, and he's likely going to have to be a transfer out for most people. But Luis Diaz was my differential. Most people had gone for Darwin, and honestly, Darwin Núñez, you never know if he's going to have his finishing boots on, and he didn't. He really didn't. But that one chance that he had, oh my God, when he chipped the keeper, I had to hold my breath. I wasn't sure if it was going to go in or not, but when it went in, wow, like Darwin Núñez always has to do things the hard way. He could have squared it to Jota. He could have gone to the right or the left side of the onrushing keeper, but listen, he scored. It just gives you that reminder that Darwin has huge potential. We just have to give him the opportunity to go and express himself. But unfortunately, he's just so injury prone. He picks up another injury and didn't even make it through the second game of that match. So Darwin missed it, Jota missed it, and somehow, out of nowhere, Mo Salah came out of there and he just played, and he played so great. When he subbed on, oh my God, it's like he looked like he was the best player in the Premier League. Do you remember a season or two ago when Salah went to the AFCON and he came back, it really felt like he wasn't the same player. This year, within the first 15 or 20 minutes, it looked like Salah was on it. He was beating players. He scored, I think he got a goal and an assist. Oh man, Mo is just different gravy. When he's fit, I'm bringing him right back into my team with a -4. Unfortunately, I think he honestly re-aggravated the injury. I don't know if it's going to be a long-term thing or if Klopp just planned to automatically just not play him in the Luton game. I don't know what the exact situation is, but I'm just hoping that he's going to be okay. We do have a Carabao Cup final against Chelsea, so there's a chance to win silverware. So I'm hoping that Mo Salah will go out there and carry us to the victory. But without him, and even without Darwin, I think he's a doubt as well. Without Trent, without Szoboszlai, we're going to be in trouble versus Chelsea, but at least that's not a Premier League match, so we don't have to worry too much about it. I was really underwhelmed with Diogo Jota. It was unfortunate with the injury. Luis Diaz had chance after chance, especially in the Luton game. Without Salah and without Darwin in the team, Diaz was killing it. I think he had an XG of around 2.0. There's no way I'm going to be selling Diaz, even though he has a blank week. The fixtures coming up are gorgeous. Nottingham Forest, and then in 28 he actually plays against Man City, but I have the ability to bench him because I have Semenyo in my squad. And after that, in game week 30 and 31, it's Brighton and Sheffield. If I have the ability to bench him and keep Diaz in my squad, oh man, I've got to go ahead and do it. As a Liverpool fan, and just like from a statistic perspective, he put up 2.0 XG in one game. I don't think he's ever had that many chances. He was very wasteful in that game. He could have scored 3 or 4 goals. So I just can't wait to own him as a differential. And most of you probably went to Darwin, and your likely move is going to be to Solanke or to Watkins. And that'll keep somebody like Luis Diaz as a differential for me, especially given the fact that he's going to be blanking. So most people won't even look to bring him in. So I'm really glad to have him in my squad. And then I've got my Manchester City boys, Phil Foden and Kevin De Bruyne. KDB, my guy, this guy, man, he's just so class when he plays. But when they played against Brentford and he wasn't in the lineup, I knew that was a risk with owning somebody like KDB. But the first 45 minutes of that match, it was really crying out for somebody like KDB to come unlock the defense. But it is what it is. And I think he probably picked up some sort of like niggle in his hamstring, and Pep didn't want to force him back. And it's probably the right move for City for the long term. They're fighting in so many different competitions. There's no need to play KDB if he's feeling uncomfortable. And if anything, Pep can be looking to protect him. There's no way KDB should be playing in 3 matches a week. So it sort of made sense to bench him. News has come out that he has been back in training, so I'm really glad to hear that. So I don't need to take a -4 to sell him, but in 27, I will likely look to sell him and probably either bring back Mo Salah or Heung-min Son back into my team, both of which are probably my favorite FPL picks, Solid midfielders, they are finishers for their team, and they're on the penalties. Like, those are great long-term picks to bring in and just not worry about. But for now, KDB has one more week in my squad, and he didn't do too much in the double. The upside was huge, but I tried my best. This is what it's like when you're a Liverpool fan and you bring KDB into your team. He just doesn't do anything. But who did do something? Bukayo Saka. Man, Arsenal are on fire. I honestly expected Arsenal to pick up at least 2 or 3 goals against Burnley. I expected Odegaard, Saka to get 1 return each, but Saka to pick up 2 goals? Man, this guy is elevating into that 10.0 and 11.0 asset for next year. I'm expecting his price rise to be huge because he's been very consistent on penalties. And honestly, if Arsenal continue to play like this, they're in a real battle for a title race. They're no longer, pretenders. They have the experience from last year. They have the youth. They have the really strong squad. Trossard has been playing incredible for them. So, man, they're a threat. I'm nervous, I can't even lie. But thankfully, the guy that I went against in the template was Darwin Núñez, and the guy that I kept was Dominic Solanke. The reason that I kept him is that I've already used my wildcard. I couldn't spend too many transfers moving in and out of players, and Solanke is a really good player for the long term, and fortunately, he got a massive return, especially when people sold him, so he was a differential for me. Really glad about that, and most people went out there and they triple captained Haaland. Man, the key decision for me, and I think for most, is going to be, is this the time to triple captain? If I was thinking about these fixtures in isolation, I think Solanke has the best fixtures. I think he's the best player, probably has the most upside. But I think Haaland's upside in these fixtures is capped. When I look at this Brentford fixture in isolation, Brentford are going to sit deep. In terms of game state, if City score one early, there's a chance they could absolutely batter Brentford because Brentford are in the bottom 5 teams in terms of expected goals conceded. And I think that's the thing with Haaland is like the fear that's going to come along with this. I think the upside of Solanke is higher than Haaland, even though Solanke has worse expected statistics, even though he's plays for a worse team and he's a worse FPL pick. I just think he can at least match what Haaland will do in terms of output. But regardless, at the end of the day, I want to triple captain a player that's going to score the most points. That is the thing I have to consider. I think Solanke can probably outscore him. I think Solanke's effective ownership, again, it's going to be around 210%. I don't think people will have the guts to triple captain somebody like Solanke because he's not a household name, even though this would be my favorite triple captaincy alternative to Haaland. I just can't believe what happened. He put up an XG of around 1.7 in the first game. I think he put up an XG of around 0.5 in the second game. So he put up around like 2.3 XG in the double game week, and he only got one return. Can you believe that? You guys are so unlucky if you went out there and triple captain Haaland. But if you look at it from the other perspective, the only reason he scored in that Brentford game is because the defender slipped. Can you imagine if Haaland went out there and he blanked in both games? That would have been unreal. So I just think, you just got to count yourself lucky. Like, it ain't much, but it's honest work. 10 points is solid. I often compare myself to other FPL managers, and one of my favorite people to compare myself to is Let's Talk FPL, Andy. And I think in terms of him using his triple captain, he has never really got more than 10 points. So 10 points is solid. He always finishes in the top 100K. He's a solid FPL manager, so you can't really be mad at 10 points. But I tweeted this right after the game, and listen, Haaland sets the triple captain bar at 10 points. Can Dominic Solanke beat that? I think so. And I just think it's very possible. I'm really glad I got 400 likes on that tweet. I could not believe my eyes. I still can't believe that. That's crazy. So thank you so much for all your support. If you're not on Twitter, jump on Twitter. Go follow me there. I tweet a lot. And listen, it seems like there's a lot of people in the same boat as me. I think Haaland's effective ownership was around 270% this game week. So there's probably around 30% of most engaged managers that still have their triple captainship available. Maybe they've already used it. But for me, it's going on Dominic Solanke in game week 28. The fixtures against Sheffield United at home, at Luton at home, they look gorgeous. Game week 28 is going to be huge for my rank, so I can't wait to see what happens. Just some other thoughts that I was thinking about over the double game week this week is that Liverpool have scored the most goals in all of Europe. So if you have somebody that's a Liverpool attacker in your team, whether they're starting or they're benched, it doesn't really matter that much because we're scoring so many goals. They can even score goals off the bench. So if you have a Liverpool asset, maybe if it's like a Gakpo or a Darwin if he's benched, or even a Luis Diaz if he's benched, don't be too sad. We can score so many goals even off the bench. Lastly, Virgil van Dijk. This guy is just different. He's played 93 games at home and he has 46 clean sheets. This guy is just different. He's colossal. Oh man, he's a captain for a reason. He's easily the best defender in the entire league. Okay, so that was me talking about my Game Week 25 team, and now I'm just going to be talking about Game Week 26. My transfer was very easy. I made it a couple days ago. Diego Jota picked up his knee injury. He's out for 2 months. I did the smart move of moving him to Hwang Hee-chan. Listen, I'm going to be Team Korea. Listen, Hwang is coming in this week, and pretty likely Son is going to be coming in soon as well. Both of them are just really solid FPL picks for the long term. They're on penalties. They're pretty much strikers for their team, but they're midfielders in FPL. Like, I love these guys in terms of FPL picks. So I'm really glad to bring them in. And if we look at the expected goals that we're expecting from this Wolves and Sheffield game, it's around 2.5. There's honestly a thought process to even captain Hwang. The reason why I'm thinking this way is because he's a mid, but he's going to be playing in the striker position for Wolves, and Sheffield are easily the worst team in the league. So if you want to go against and back against Haaland, because he hasn't really been having his shooting boots on, but I just think the amount of XG that Haaland got, I am too scared to really back against him. I'm definitely going to be going for the Haaland captain, because if you look at my team as a whole, it's disgusting. I've got 2 Newcastle defenders that play against Arsenal. I've got a Bournemouth defender that plays against Manchester City. Like, what is this? I've got a Stupinian who doesn't even start. Like, this defense is terrible. But listen, Like, in order for you to understand why I have these players and the reason that I'm not taking any moves or any hits to get rid of them, I have to go through the rotation pairings that I have into my team. I'm looking at game week 26 and I'm just hoping to survive. I'm not looking to thrive. I think the threats to my rank are going to be Ollie Watkins. So the size of my red arrow, because I'm definitely getting a red arrow, but I'm not taking a hit. So there's that to go along with it. But the size of my red arrow will be determined by how well Ollie Watkins does against Nottingham Forest, who he actually blanked against when he played them away from home earlier in the season. I know this time he'll be at home, so he'll likely get something, especially given the fact that I don't own him. He'll definitely get a hat trick now. And the other thing that I'm going against is Arsenal defense. So two of those things that are probably likely to get returns. They'll probably give me a 10-point red arrow this week, but maybe they don't. And maybe there's a chance that somebody like Semenyo or Solanke goes out there against Manchester City and scores a goal. Like, there's a chance. Like, honestly, Manchester City have just been conceding goals week in and week out. They really don't keep clean sheets. Like, clean sheets are their myth. So if Bournemouth go out there, Semenyo or Solanke get something, I should be okay. It shouldn't be too bad. But honestly, I don't really look at my team with any sort of excitement or pride this week. So let me just go into why I'm not going to be selling Botman or Senesi for a hit. So with the rotation pairing that I would first want to discuss is going to be Marco Senesi. And it's not really a rotation pairing because I'm just going to be playing Senesi week in and a week out until I transfer him out of my team. Currently, he has Burnley in game week 27. In game week 28, he has a double game week. And in game week 29, he's playing against Wolves away. But I'm expecting that to be a blank, and that's when I'm going to use my free hit chip. So I'm hoping that this will be the type of player that could hold for the rest of the season and just keep him on my bench. Or maybe I could sell him in game week 32. The reason why I'm really excited about Senesi is because even in 30 and 31, he has two fixtures and they're both at home. The problem with Senesi is that he has 7 yellow cards. That's the problem. So he's going to be walking that yellow card tightrope, but he has goal threat. I think he has 2 or 3 goals, either goals or assists. Really solid threat from set pieces, and he also has access to the clean sheets, right? Again, it's a Bournemouth defender, but honestly, Bournemouth are really underrated. I'm a really big fan of Solanke, Senesi. Those are like the 2 main FPL picks. And again, if you don't go for somebody like Senesi later on, you're going to be going for somebody like Neto. The upside is going to be huge. When you look at those fixtures in Game Week 28, Sheffield United at home, Luton at home, there could be a massive score in there. So I'm hoping that I pick up a haul. And yeah, the reason why I have Senesi in my squad is because of that double. Now, at some point, I may look to get rid of him, and the player that I want to get rid of him for is Kyle Walker. The positioning that Walker took up in this double was incredible. In fact, he actually had an extra assist that would have been that second goal for Holland, but it was ruled out because Kyle Walker was offside. Can you believe that? Now, here's the thing with Walker. Recently, he had some personal issues, so there were some things that came up in the media. And when something like that happens with Pep, what Pep does, he just benches the player. But before that, Walker was pretty much starting every single game. The thing with Walker is that in terms of the Manchester City tactical setup, he plays as a right mid. He stays wide, creates this space for Man City, and it allows a player like Phil Foden to come in off the right wing and express himself and be creative so he can play centrally. And that's what he wants to do. So the way that I'm thinking is that Kyle Walker is going to be somebody that's pretty much a set and forget in the Manchester City starting 11, and I think he's first choice. And when I look at the Manchester City fixtures at the end of the season, like regardless of how many doubles or what's going on, I just think I want Kyle Walker in my team. So that's kind of why I have Senesi in my squad. I keep him in there, and hopefully he doesn't miss any of the games for the yellow card ban, and I just eventually move him on in game week 32 to Kyle Walker. The second rotation pairing that I have is going to be about Virgil van Dijk. Have you guys ever played chess? And there's like certain pieces that have more value than others. And for me, Virgil van Dijk is like my king. What I'm going to do in terms of protecting him is that I'm going to just have 4.5s that are going to be in and out of my team. I'm going to rotate them in and out so that way I can just keep Virgil for the long term. And let me explain this. So for example, I have somebody like Alfie Doughty who's in my team who has a double game week in 28 when Van Dijk has a tough fixture against Manchester City. So I'd bench Van Dijk and I'd play somebody like Alfie Doughty. There's probably going to be my free hit active in game week 29, and then Van Dijk plays against Brighton in 30. I've never had a Liverpool-Brighton game without at least 3 or 4 goals. So I'd be looking to bench Virgil in that game. And the player that I want to move Alfie Doughty to that's currently on my radar is actually Malo Gusto. He's been playing really great for Chelsea. When I watched that Manchester City game, he put up a really good chance to Nicholas Jackson, but it wasn't just that. Over the last couple games, he's really stamped his authority and earned that right back spot. And I think Reece James may have some trouble coming back into this team. The problem with Reece is like he's an injury risk, but he is easily Chelsea's best player. So I won't want to bring somebody like Gusto in until the last minute. So I'm going to wait all the way until game week 30 before I bring him in. But he's the current Chelsea player that I have eyed up. An additional reason why I want to bring Gusto in is that he also has a blank in 26. And if Chelsea go out there and they beat Leeds in the FA Cup, which we'll find out this week, then he'll also have a second double game week. So that means that he'll blank again in 29 and he'll also blank in 26, meaning that he'll have 2 doubles in the second half of the season. And if Reece James is out, man, Malo Gusto would be a great differential, really solid attacking threat, and Chelsea are very inconsistent, but they're also underrated at the same time. So again, I bring somebody like Malo Gusto in game week 30, and so I'd be able to play him in game week 30. In 31, I'd play Van Dijk. Moving on to the bottom half of the screen. Now, Van Dijk in 32, he plays against Manchester United. I know we put up a clean sheet against Man U. I'm expecting Liverpool to beat them, even though it's away from home, but because it's away from home, I'd want to bench somebody like Van Dijk. If I had Trent in my team, I would play him without doubt. But because it's only Van Dijk, I would want to bench him. And that's when I have somebody like Malo Gusto, who has another solid fixture against Sheffield United away from home, which is probably the second best fixture you can have in the entire league. Moving on to game week 33 and 34, Van Dijk has really solid fixtures. And this is the reason that I have Sven Botman in my squad. In game week 35 and 36, when Liverpool have tougher fixtures, he has the 2 easiest fixtures on the calendar, which is Sheffield United at home and Burnley away. That's the reason that I have Sven Botman in my squad. I just really like the way that he rotates with Van Dijk. He ends up protecting him. And the thing is that Newcastle also have a really likely chance to blank in game week 29 because they're playing against a lower league side, Blackburn. They should dispose of them in the FA Cup. We'll find out about that this week. And that could mean that Botman will have Sheffield United, Burnley, and then a double game week in 37 or maybe even in 34. We'll have to find out where the doubles go into, but because I have wildcarded early, I have to operate under assumptions. So these are just the assumptions that I have been using. This is kind of like playing fixture chess. You don't really know what's going to happen. I'm just sort of predicting the future. But this is the reason why I look at my team and I see somebody like Botman in there. I see Senesi in there. They have terrible fixtures, but I am not going to be selling them. Even for a hit, I'm just happy to hold them. So that's it, guys. That is my game week 26 analysis. And if you stuck around to this point in the video, you're a real one. Shout out to you. But listen, I've been growing my channel as well as I could, providing as much value as I can. So if I provided some value to you over the course of this video, please just drop a like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see y'all again soon. Peace.